December 30th, 1990, Versailles, Kentucky. A 22-year-old mother named Valeri Camille Brooks agreed to work an extra late-night shift at the Thornton's convenience store. Around 2 a.m., the alarm went off for the store. Police arrived within minutes. The store was open, her purse was still there, but Valeri was gone. No employee, no clear sign of where she went, and no answers. About 5 hours later, her body was found roughly 10 miles away near Ford's Mill Road in rural Woodford County. She had been murdered. More than 3 decades later, the question is still the same. What happened during those 5 missing hours? In Kentucky, some stories never get finished. They linger unanswered, unresolved, and often forgotten. This is Buried in the Bluegrass, a true crime podcast from OleGergMedia. Each episode will dive into cases from across the Commonwealth, focusing on documented facts and those pesky little unanswered questions. Welcome back, everyone. Today we are visiting Versailles, Kentucky. Woodford County, about 13 miles to the west of a good old home here in Lexington. Now, I used to make this drive daily because I worked at T-Shirt Warehouse down there for a while back. Lord, that's been 15 years ago. I'm dating myself, but yeah, I'm that old. It seems like a lot more than 13 miles when you drive it every day. And when you drive by it every day, the castle just loses all sense of, magic. Although getting pictures with my Lincoln in front of it, that was some magical pictures. I totally blame the Lincoln, though. Speaking of which, obviously, the what they call the Kentucky Castle is right there on the Fayette, Woodford County line. The city of Versailles has a total area of 2.8 square miles. So, yeah, it's not a very large city. In 2024, I think the census said there was around 10,500 residents. And back in 1990, according to records, the population was quite a bit smaller at 7,269. Now, the entire Woodford County was just under 20,000 residents. And one of those residents was our subject tonight, Valeri Brooks. 22 years old with 2 children, and by all accounts, was deeply connected to her family. Her brother Michael has described her as fiercely loyal and someone who wanted to take care of the people around her. And that matters because in true crime, we can get buried in timelines, evidence, suspects, theories. We have to remember that before this was a cold case, Valeri was a person. She had children, she had family, she had a future. And on the night of December 30th, 1990, she was working alone on the Thornton's gas station on Lexington Road in Versailles. She wasn't even supposed to be working. She actually took an extra shift that night. Let me just add my little caveat here, because this is where it kind of hits close to me, because I worked third shift at gas stations for years, and I've seen some crazy, dangerous situations, and I've always wondered about the logic behind putting a single female third shift overnight by herself. To me, it never made sense, because I've been robbed. I was on the news one night for the guy come in and robbed me at gunpoint and got $43 and change. Now, needless to say, that pretty much, I think I may have worked another week after that. That ended my whole third shift overnight. I like my life a whole lot more than having guns drawn on me for $40. And it just puts it into perspective that I didn't have it nearly as bad, because I'm still here to tell the story. And Valeri, unfortunately, is not. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, though. Like I said, December 30th, 1990. Valeri was working third shift overnight at the Thornton's. I mean, if you've ever been to Versailles, as you enter, you know Thornton's on the left. They've recently changed it to an Amico, but it's been Thornton's for years. It's been the same location. And if you've happened to pass by there after dark, there's pretty good chance you've probably seen a cop there. Just like I did. I tried to keep them around, because give them a free cup of coffee, a free donut. I mean, stereotypical is stereotypical, but it worked. keeps them around, and if a cop's there, then guess who's not there? The robber. And this Thornton's was known even back then as the hangout overnight for the cops. They come there, take their breaks, coffee, donuts, the usual. And from everything I've seen and researched, they knew Valeri and even knew her car when at 1:40 a.m. the alarm went off at Thornton's, and several officers were in just a couple minutes and showed up very quickly. They noticed that her car was the only car in the parking lot at the time. And now looking back on it, they almost had to have passed the subject and Valeri in the vehicle that she was taken in while they were responding to the alarm call. And like I said, the case summaries and reporting all say the officers were there within minutes. Valeri's car was the only one in the parking lot. Her purse was still inside the store, but they could not find Valeri. The fact that her purse was still there, that says a lot. I mean, she just didn't run up and clock out and leave, or she wasn't outside, having a smoke break. This meant something happened fast. And whoever took her either forced her out, convinced her to leave, or caught her in a moment when she just could not call for help. So at this point, you've got an empty store. The clerk is gone. You have no idea where she is. So immediately that clock starts ticking. And I'm sure it just absolutely drug by for these detectives and police officers as they searched the immediate area and surrounding county for Valeri. And in fact, they weren't even the one who actually found the body. It was a resident out on Ford Mills Road. Found her off a private drive that was about 10 miles south of Versailles. Me and my son actually went out last night at 1:40 a.m., right around the time it supposedly took place. We started at the Thorntons. We actually drove to Ford's Mills Road, and we found the gate because we were actually looking and researching, and we seen on a news clipping where Lee Searcy was out there doing a TV spot, and there's no mistaking the gate. If you go out there, it's one of a kind. There's only one spot like that. And let me tell you, when we pulled up, chill bumps hit real quick. That was a vibe out there. It was scary, to be honest. It is literally in the middle of nowhere. In 1990, you didn't have GPS on your phone. Hell, at that point, you didn't even have MapQuest. You had an atlas. I don't think people realize the literal jump in technology from 35 years ago. We take it for granted. We can just pop it into a GPS and whoop, look, 10 minutes, we're down the road, and look, we see exactly where it happened. Now, our trip took a little over 12 minutes. I'd say we'd call it 20 minutes. Just to be safe, because I went down the Bluegrass Parkway, and from what I'm researching, they didn't have that leg to Lexington open. You actually had to go into Versailles and up Lexington Road to get into Lexington. You couldn't actually get onto the Bluegrass Parkway or off there at that exit that exists now. So we came back through Versailles, and that was closer. That was about 18 to 20 minutes from the spot to Thornton's. It's like I said, it's Amico now. What would have been Thornton's, and there's zero traffic. Versailles is a small town. There is not a lot of traffic, and I'm surprised we didn't see a cop. But we did not see one. I think we may have seen 2 cars out the entire trip. Now, that being said, there's a 5-hour gap. It happened. She disappeared right at 1:40 to 2 a.m. and her body was found at 7 a.m. The lady found her. She was fully clothed, and they determined it to be a homicide due to multiple slashes and stab wounds. So 5 hours, that's a long time. That's enough time. I mean, you could have driven pretty much out of the state. You could have hidden a vehicle. You had enough time to take someone somewhere, and the way that you get to the location where she was found, I seriously do not understand. If you don't know the area, you'd have rough time to find it, especially without GPS, especially without being able to look at your phone and zoom out on that map and find some random roads. I mean, I can see it nowadays. Let's look and find us something that's back in the country. You didn't have that option back then. It's on. If you didn't know the area, then I'm not so sure you would have found this spot. But that also makes it more likely that if somebody did see them out there, that it'd be out of place and somebody would have taken notice. That's why hopefully, and I know I'm definitely not the first podcast to put this out in even the last few months. I didn't realize it, and I'm not trying to step on toes, not trying to copy anybody or ride anybody's coattails, but I made a list months ago and just dove in, and when I did dive in, I realized that in the past years, there's been several podcasts done on this, and like mine's going to be a quick run through it. If you want the major details, there's several out there, and I would highly suggest going listen to them all. I'm almost certain you'll learn something from them that you're definitely not going to hear on mine. It might be vice versa. I may have found something. I highly doubt it, because everything I research, a lot of it comes back to a lot of these podcasts posts here recently. And that's we can get into that, the dead internet theory, but we'll move on. To me, though, that brings up a second question. Not only who is the killer, did they know Valeri? It's like, what did they do for that 5 hours? Were they with her the entire time? Did they take her straight and do this dastardly deed and leave? Like, if they did that, they were, like I said, they were well able to be plumb out of the state by the time that the body was found. Or for that matter, they could have been right down the street back in their bed at home. That's the bad part. We have zero clue at this point. There have been several possibilities throughout the years due to the simple fact that DNA was actually found on the body. And it was found, unfortunately, due to a sexual assault. So now you have a sexual assault and basically torture and murder, and left in the cold snow 10 miles south of Versailles, that if you didn't know how to get there, I just cannot fathom how you found the place. So does that mean it was a local? Does that mean someone had connections? And honestly, at first, police had no clues. They had no leads. Like, it took till 1996 till they found William Glenn Rogers, who had actually already been convicted of murder in Tennessee. The tests, however, cleared him. And then we fast forward to 2012, and there was actually a documentary about Glenn Edward Rogers and two men of a similar name, also both killers. Like, what? Like, what? If you know a Glenn Edward Rogers, please just disassociate, move on. Now, this version actually earned the nickname of the cross-country killer. Like, he had crimes in Florida, Mississippi, California, Louisiana. Like, he's prolific. And turns out that he has a familial connection to Versailles. How odd is that? Investigators had planned to compare Rogers' DNA on file in Florida to the evidence from the Brooks slaying. Other than that, like, it does not show that anything. Basically, it says Versailles police thought DNA evidence had cleared Rogers. It had actually cleared serial killer William Glenn Rogers. These names are getting confusing. But one of my main questions is, we're in 2026 now. Obviously, technology has advanced far beyond what it was in 1996 and in 2012 when this DNA was discussed. Like, why have we not compared it to, let's just say, all the genealogy sites? You can't tell me that not one family member of that DNA match is on Ancestry.com. I mean, in all seriousness, we branch out and take some random routes and find this guy. Because at this point, it's been 35 years. And obviously, your techniques so far have not been fruitful. Because a theory is not proof. Allegations of a possible connection, that's not a conviction. I mean, and Valeri's family has straight up said they want the right person caught, not just somebody to take the fall. They just don't want to blame somebody random and sweep it under the rug. They want the right person in this case. But there's just still so many questions. I mean, who entered the Thorntons around 2 a.m.? Was Valeri targeted? Was this random? Like, was the killer local to Woodford County? Was he just passing through? Like, was she taken somewhere before being killed? Was she killed at the scene? Has the DNA been submitted for modern genetic genealogy? Because I've not heard anything and I can't find anything in my research. And, I mean, why has the case gone 35 years now without an arrest? I mean, these aren't small questions. I mean, that's the difference between a closed case and the family still waiting impatient. At this point, I'd be very impatient, but you all know me. I mean, just think about it. One of the hardest parts is that Valerie's family has lived with this for not just a few years, but decades. Like, her children grew up without a mother. Her mother and brother continue to ask questions. They're still talk to the press. And every year that passes, just the witnesses get older, the memories fade. I'm sure several investigators have retired to this point. Like, I'd do a records request, but we know my history, and I get frustrated with that. So I'm trying to not get irritated and keep these moving. I mean, and like I said, there's been several podcasts lately that did excellent jobs of research. They all kind of way more information on those. I highly recommend to go check those out as well. Like, evidence really don't care how much time has passed. I mean, if that DNA is there, they have the ability to continue this case. They need to be researching, and maybe the recent influx of podcasts or randoms that are on here talking about this, maybe it'll kick something up and they'll get their butt in gear and get to going. I don't know. But I do think one of the main things is we need to remember Valeri Brooks. It's not just a true crime headline. She wasn't just a clerk at the Thorntons who picked up an extra shift. She was a 22-year-old mother. Like, she was working overnight to support her family. She vanished from the store. Like I said, she wasn't even supposed to be working that night. She's found murdered 5 hours later. In those 5 hours, that's where you'll find the truth. Someone knows something. Maybe they knew it in 1990. Maybe they just have held it completely. Maybe they heard a confession years later. Maybe they saw something and never connected it. Just never put two and two together. But Valerie's family deserves answers. Her children deserves answers. And Kentucky should not forget her name. Valeri Camille Brooks. With any luck, the world will never forget her name, and her killer will be brought to justice very soon. We can only wish. And until next time, keep asking questions, because sometimes the truth is still buried in the bluegrass. If you have information about the murder of Valeri Camille Brooks, contact Kentucky State Police Post 12 Frankfort at 502-227-2221 or Kentucky State Police Cold Case Unit 502-782-1800. You can also submit anonymous tips through Kentucky State Police tip form. Also, if you have tips about this or any other stories, you can contact me at OleGergMedia at gmail.com. The website is OleGergMedia.com, and Facebook, you can look me up. You can search OleGergMedia or my real name, Greg Sexton, and you'll find me. I got the little blue check mark. And like I said, that goes for Kentucky cold cases, missing persons, unsolved homicides, corruption investigations, public record leads, anything like that. Contact me. I'll get it out there. If you want to remain anonymous, I'll give you credit if you want credit. But sometimes the smallest detail can break the biggest case. If you know something, say something. I mean, you could literally be the missing piece that finally brings the family answers. This podcast is a proud member of the OGM Podcast Network. You can follow me on Facebook at OleGergMedia, TikTok at OleGergMedia, same at YouTube, and we also have OleGergMedia.com. So go give us a follow, a like, rate us on your favorite podcast catcher. Hook us up, man. But as always, thank you for listening to OGM Podcast Network.